We're taking you on a road rockin' trip down to Flavor Town, where the gravitational force of bacon warps the laws of space and time. Guy Fieri. Welcome to a video answering a question nobody other than myself has ever asked for. Imagine yourself in a small town with only a couple of fast food places in sight. Think how limiting these places are and how tired many can get after eating for a while. Are you imagining yet? Welcome to my life of mediocre taste. As you could probably imagine, it takes a toll on the average person's taste buds. This has only left me to contemplate and wonder what other people usually eat and how much more flavor options they have. This later left me to the question that we will be answering today. If I were to want to broaden my horizons and actually have a taste at what would be the most flavorful dish or even thing in the world, what would it exactly be? You can always find videos of people like our literal idol, Guy Fieri, and other world-class chefs, such as Gordon Ramsay, claim to have discovered the most flavorful dish to have ever been beholden to man. But what is the truth of this title? Can something even be the most flavorful? What kind of scale will we even have to use to rate this? What even is the objective facts of taste? Is it the size, the price, the juiciness? And what exactly is the difference between something being flavorful and having something taste good? If I were to go in prison and get my last meal, what exactly should I order? Well, buckle up and grab your 5-star cutlery set because we are going on to an adventure through culinary information documents for a simple internet question. One might start thinking about this question and immediately may start saying that the size of food is going to be the answer, or even the price. First, the size. If we were going to consider this to be a qualification of how flavorful something is, then we might need to turn to world records. One, for example, is the world's largest chicken nugget. That was created in 2013 and was 720 times bigger than a regular chicken nugget. And it weighed in about 51.1 pounds. That's only the tip of the iceberg, though. In 2017, the largest commercially sold hamburger was created and weighed in at 1,793 pounds and was worth $7,799. But what if I were to tell you that these feats are nothing compared to the largest collection of alcohol ever? Measuring in at about 288 billion light years long, near Sagittarius B2, exists a large, strange, pink cloud of gas. This ball of what looked to be pink space cotton candy was discovered in 2006 by a couple of astronomers. This entire cloud is made of alcohol and ethyl formate, the same substance that give raspberries their taste, making it basically God's cocktail smoothie of raspberry goodness. How did they find out what it was made of? Apparently scientists can look at objects through spectrometers and see how light interacts with them. They can then compare that to certain elements to figure out what it is. Back on topic, however. Unfortunately for us mortals, it is not made out of ethanol, the type in our more known drinks of alcohol, but rather its more edgy and toxic cousin, methanol. This means you will die from any digestion of the cloud. Not only that, to add insult to injury, the cloud is 390 light years away. I mean, we were technically already cheating with this one, since it wasn't in our world. Alright, so our gigantic cloud of alcohol is out of the question. But what about the price of a dish? Sure, we could talk about dishes made of gold leaf, so world's most expensive taco clocking in at $25,000, or even the Lindith Howe pudding, worth almost $34,000. But let me introduce you to a Sri Lankan man back in 2010 who attempted to smuggle in 2,060 diamonds together, worth $670,000, through an Indian airport. In order to smuggle in the diamonds, he wrapped them in condoms and ate them. After questioning, they could see him uncomfortably writhing in pain while the diamonds came out the back end. So maybe not our best culprit? Absolutely not, because this price pales in comparison to something else. Not only the most expensive alcohol in the world, but also the most expensive drink in the world. Tequila Ley 925. This tequila first sported the price tag of $2.5 million in 2008, and later rose to $3.5 million now. However, it should be noted that its price tag is mainly from the 6,400 diamonds scattered across the bottle. Is this considered cheating? Well, not entirely. We should not be so quick to roll out the non-physiological processes that attribute to taste. According to many studies in psychology, the presentation of any choice can be attributed to how we experience it. This includes taste. When a group of people was offered the same type of coffee at the same temperature, recipients would rate the one in the fancier and more presentable glass higher than the one in a styrofoam cup. The same study has been repeated for concerts, street musicians, fast food places, fancy restaurants, and even cookies. Let me break it down for you. Would you rather have a slice of pizza from a nice, clean restaurant or a dirty one? No matter how the pizza looks, you likely said the clean one unless you actually enjoy pain. In conclusion, it is not cheating for it to have diamonds on the bottle, because it attributes to the taste. But clearly, it is flawed to think that size or price has to do with anything about the taste or flavor of an object. We have to have some objective scale deciding something. For us to get anywhere, we must first define what flavor is. Flavor, as described by our good old dictionary Oxford, is either 1. The distinctive taste of a food or drink, 2. An indication of the essential character of something, or 3. A quantized property of quarks which differentiates them into at least 6 varieties. Do not worry, we are not going into quantum physics and quarks in this video, but the first 2 definitions do help us narrow down our approach. Basically, we can figure out that we also have to define taste, which, in the context we are using, is the sensation of a flavor perceived in the mouth and throat on contact with a substance. This makes sense. After all, our mouth and tongue do all the tasting, right? Well, before we get to that, we have to talk about the 3 major components of taste. The first one is the acidic compounds of the substance you are tasting. Our tongue can sense when things are either acidic or basic on the pH scale. This is even further spread out by what many people know as taste buds. Leading into our second element to tasting, we will look at one of the trends sparked in 2015 and 2016, the Miracle Berry Pill. If you have not heard of the Miracle Berry Pill, it is basically a tablet made of all natural berries found in West Africa. These berries are called miracle berries and contain a glycoprotein called miraculin. While it does not have the most creative name, it certainly has creative properties. These berries and pills were well known to turn anything with a sour taste into a sweet taste. People have even reported that it made onions taste like candied apples. You see, according to a Discovery article talking about how the miracle berry actually works, the miraculin chemical sticks to the sweet receptors of the tongue, which causes them to bind to the receptors and begin to bend the nerves. When an acidic taste hits these receptors, it hits the sweet ones as well as the sour ones, bending it back in place, causing the receptors to go off sporadically. By doing this, it effectively gives off an illusion to the brain that the food tastes sweet and not sour. By seeing this, we can determine that not only our pH scales of the food we eat matter to the taste, but also that our second condition in the shape of the taste buds in the mouth. The shapes determine what taste will eventually be sent to our brain. So what about our last determinant in what causes taste? As I was saying, it may seem that the tongue does all the work, but as many know, smell plays a huge part in taste. This is due to the olfactory bulb. The smell provides a wider range of things that the compound contains while the taste narrows it down. However, without the wider category to help, the tongue can only pick apart tiny clues from the food. This is why closing your nose will dull a taste. The smell is a satellite dish and your tongue is a remote. Without cable, you cannot channel it. I promise no more puns. It also helps that the nose and tongue share similar cells that determine their functions. Knowing this, however, how come some foods, like peppers, still taste even when you hold your nose closed? Well, for one reason, the particles of an object actually have to be inside the nose, and not everything is transferred through smell, but instead through the tongue to the olfactory system. Another reason is due to the chemicals in the food having properties concerning the shape of the buds. In peppers, a chemical called capsaicin binds with your buds, which causes you pain. In reality, taste is not really a fifth sense, but is actually just a combination of feeling and smell. Alright, so then obviously our competitor for the most flavorful thing has to be based on its spiciness. So who are the contenders in the match of the hottest and spiciest? Let us look at some peppers for our first glimpse. Everything I will be talking about is graded on what is called a Scoville. The higher the Scoville rating, the spicier it is. By now, almost everybody knows of the infamous Carolina Reaper, that clocks in at 2.2 million Scovilles on average. But what many people have not heard of is a pepper strain called the Chocolate Betula, which I probably butchered. And it has a slight floral taste and an undetermined Scoville rating, but many officials agree that it is hotter than the Carolina Reaper. But if we were to only look at peppers, then we'd be close-minded. Military-grade pepper spray weighs in at about 5 million Scovilles, but it only goes downhill from there. Introducing a chocolate bar appropriately named the world's hottest chocolate bar has a Scoville of 9 million, about 4 times hotter than a Carolina Reaper, and topping that off at 9.1 million Scovilles is nordahydrocapsaicin. Wow, a molecule that is found in many peppers. However, the world's spiciest substance is pure capsaicin itself. It tops the list with 16 million Scovilles and can cause physical pain, vomiting, and even in some cases death. However, it should be noted that, as stated earlier, the spicy taste we know and love is caused by pain. In fact, spiciness is not even a taste because it is not a shape on the taste bud. The only thing that it really does is bend our receptors and cause pain. Therefore, it is merely a dead end. Alright, so we have tried size, price, and even spiciness. What now? Well, my dear viewer, it is time to come to something you should have seen coming a mile away. Taste buds. First, we must define what type of taste buds there are. Despite popular belief, there's a lot of disagreement over what the tastes are. People usually come to a consensus on 4: bitterness, saltiness, sourness, and sweetness. People then argue about whether there are actually 5 or 6. People, who fall into the camp of 5, believe it is umami, which is a Germanic word that means the savory taste of protein. Burger, bacon, steak, chicken, mushrooms, all of these have umami. This was first discovered by a Japanese scientist, which further went on to break the idea of how the tongue is broken into 5 palates, when in actuality all of the taste buds are actually spread out over the tongue and not in tiny sections. This explains why food tastes the same no matter where it is on your tongue. On the opposite end, you have people who believe in 6 taste, which replaces umami. These tastes are pungent, which is found in cheeses, herbs, and spices, and astringent, found in raw fruits and vegetables, legumes, and milk. This is not even mentioning that the 5 or 6 basic tastes are not the only tastes we have. 4 more tastes have actually been recently researched upon: fatty, alkaline, metallic, and water-like. For the sake of this video, we'll be focusing on umami and the other 4 basic ones rather than the other 2 and 4 new ones due to it having more scientific evidence to back it up. It should be known before we start that humans are unique when it comes to tasting. We have an above average amount of taste buds, roughly 9,000. It also should be known that, on average, herbivores have more taste buds than omnivores, which have way more taste buds than carnivores. The domestic house cat, which is a carnivore, is unable to taste sweetness because they lack the necessary taste buds to do so. But many more animals in this world have over double the amount of taste buds we have, such as pigs. This means that we are likely missing out on other flavors that many animals can taste. Coincidentally, we are the only known animal that actively seeks out spiciness. Other animals, when presented with a choice, always choose the normal food over the spicy one. The thrill of the spice that releases our pleasure centers may be stemming from societal reasons rather than the actual taste. We have taste buds for a good reason, and we should be glad that we can taste way more than the common house cat. Let me bring to your attention that not all taste buds are created equal. Some taste buds are more prominent than others within the mouth. Trust me, researching this was not easy and it took me an hour looking in the corners of the internet. And it took looking at psychophysics and neurology. What I have found is that each taste bud has its own sensitivity. It should be known that these taste buds are found on what is known as papillae. When a substance interacts with this, it has to pass what is called a threshold. Basically, the smaller the absolute threshold of a certain taste, the more likely it is for you to notice in small amounts. When increasing this from what is called a serial dilution, where you can barely just taste this actual taste, to go from food can exponentially increase the flavor. What I found is that salty and sweet flavors were tied for the highest threshold, meaning it needs to have a lot before you can taste it. Sour is right in the middle, but about 10 times lower than salty and sweet. Umami takes second lowest threshold, barely making it under sour. Bitterness takes the lead with the lowest threshold being about 100 times lower than umami. This becomes even more impressive when you consider the existence of people known as super tasters, who have an even lower bitterness threshold as well as a lower, sweeter one. Knowing this, our prime candidates are sour, umami, and bitterness. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way for anyone who was wondering. If we were to figure out which substances rank the highest in both sweet and salty, it would be Lug du Name and P.F. Chang's Hot and Sour Soup Bowl, respectively. Lug du Name is a chemical that has been reported to be 300,000 times as sweeter than sugar, but it has not been approved by the FDA for their concerns over its toxicity. However, the second sweetest substance known, Advantame, is FDA approved and is 20,000 times sweeter than sugar. However, all of these are synthetically made. The most sweet all-natural thing ranks number 4, known as Thaumatein, which is 2,000 times sweeter than sugar. Conversely, P.F. Chang's Hot and Sour Soup Bowl has about 7,980 milligrams of sodium, which contains about 7.3% of the amount of sodium needed to kill a human. If we were to consider the saltiest non-food object, it would actually be the world itself. Earth is the saltiest planet in our solar system due to the pressurized brines. If you were to want to find the saltiest place on the planet, I would redirect you to Don Juan Pond, which is 44% saline. Now that we have those out of the way, we can move on to our top contenders. Starting off for third place of sour, we must question what the sourest substance in the world is. Toxic waste is considered to be the most sour candy in the world, but if we were to really want to go all the way, acidity can be linked to the nature of sourness. May I introduce you to carborane acid? To put in imagination how metal this stuff is, it is made in a Californian lab and is 1 million times more potent than sulfuric acid. Ironically, it is also the least corrosive. It exists at a pH of -18. That's right, pHs can be negative, which basically means its concentration of hydrogen ions have molarity greater than 1, but not to bore you. Knowing this, it will likely kill us. If we want something that won't kill us, but will likely moderately cause pain to our digestive system, then lemon extract exists at near the pH of 2.0. Our next one is umami. The biggest competitor in umami is actually part of the scary myth that exists in many 80s and 90s kids' hearts, MSGs, also known as monosodium glutamate. You know them best from that American Chinese food taste. These give off one of the highest sources of umami in the entire world, even higher than that of steak and cheese. However, MSGs were known for being harmful. This, however, has been debunked by the FDA, saying no harm has been caused by it, and all people who say they are allergic to it have no scientific evidence of it. MSGs are actually really good for a vegetarian or vegan diet in moderation. Even though they have gotten a bad rap, they are very useful in bringing out many umami flavors. The only thing that barely trumps it is pure glutamate. Our last contender is bitterness. Many people may remember the entire trend of licking Nintendo Switch cartridges. These cartridges were coated in a substance called denatonium benzoate. That's right, another chemical is at the top of the leaderboards. Denatonium benzoate in its purest form is incredibly bitter. In fact, Bitrix, a company who sells a marketed type of denatonium by the same name, stated the following: drop a thimbleful of Bitrix into an Olympic swimming pool, and you can detect the bitterness in those 2.5 million liters of water. It is also very common in many different things such as paint and nail polish to discourage consuming the products. In conclusion, the most flavorful thing in this world would likely be some kind of hellish cocktail made of denatonium benzoate, MSGs, glutamate, some soup, and carborane acid, served in a bottle decorated with the most lavish of diamonds and gold. It's hard to think that out of the complex processes and rules in our infinite and expansive universe, that one food item being the most flavorful can be simplified to being a simple compound or to be as big as the entire universe. Even minute and small topics can lead to a philosophical approach upon metaphysics and the existence of things and how they react to the universe as well. After all, it provides a good philosophy. Even though these ingredients may be flavorful, it doesn't mean you necessarily like them. It may be a juxtaposition to our real world. Choices that are the best and are necessary will not always be liked by us. But enough of that. Let's cheer and drink from that sweet methanol galaxy. I hope you all enjoyed this discussion over what could be the most flavorful thing in this world, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Welcome to my channel.